Alright, hi guys. So in today's video, I'm going to try to cover how to play Ice and how to play Fire at Legendary. And I'm actually going to be using my Grandmaster Ice on my main account to showcase the Ice strategy. So maybe we should start with the spells actually this time because I feel like, I have a better idea with this, or like I'm more sure. So this is a Grandmaster deck, but obviously Ice has staples such as Frostbite. Let me just turn the volume down a bit. So we have, for example, obviously Frostbite. Also, Reindeer Knight is useful. Better is for sure when your opponent doesn't have a shield, as well as if they have a minion up. Obviously, it's a multi-hit. So Ranger Knight is a good spell as well as Frostbite, and then we have the Winter Moon for the stun and direct damage, as well as Colossus. I think you can also use Mammoth for sure, especially if you have a couple buffs up. Pips, often I feel like opponents won't expect it. You can deal a lot of damage that way. And then in the sideboard, Blue Phoenix is a really common spell as well for Ice. And basically, I think the best way to play Ice is you'll you don't want to like blade stack too much. Basically, all you really need is, for example, a blade and then send the frostbite as soon as it's open. Obviously, ice can play around shields quite effectively that way. Personally, I've always liked, at least from classic PvP, I've always liked Snow Angel, but I guess especially in a multi PvP context, just because, I guess Frost Giant is notoriously doesn't have great base damage. Although I feel like they might have increased it. I'm not sure if it was 420 at some point recently. Anything else aside from that? I don't think so. I've seen people rock the hidden bubble. I don't know if that's completely necessary. Um, the what's it called? The blimp pet, obviously very useful. With the two extra bubbles that are 35%. They're actually stronger, especially with the bubble limit. Yeah, you can definitely still rock. I think Life Mastery at Legendary now is popular since they got rid of TC Sacrifice. That was like overly dominant in the meta. Um, yeah, pretty much. And then obviously now Ice has become even more popular because of the Shambos, which I actually just got now from my Grandmaster. I haven't PvP'd on this character with the Shambos yet. But yeah, you have Wall of Blades and Glacial Fortress. So this one, I guess, yeah, you clear 3 blades on your opponent to give yourself 3 tower shields, I'm pretty sure. And then this one, you clear 3 debuffs on yourself for 3 tower shields. So those are obviously very powerful, both of them. Can get off my mount, because, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I think that's pretty much how the deck is run in main. It's about Ice. I think that's obviously the main problem they struggled with is dealing enough damage. So how you do that is you try to remain in a good defensive position while dishing out hits. So I think Ice is really a chipping school, and potentially when it's open, send out the Colossus as well as the Colossus as well as the Mammoth for open hit potential. In terms of the gear, I think Frostbit Hood, the Waterworks hat is pretty commonly used. Then for the robe, I guess you technically have at least 3 options. You can rock either the Waterworks robe, the Safari and Crafted robe, which gives additional block and resistance to fire and storm, as well as giving more block, more HP. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then boots, I guess you can either rock Glendemming's or the Professor's Horde. So I guess it'd be Lydia's Frozen Foot Wraps, but for level 60, are also popular for better offensive stats. Then for the wand, obviously, I guess both the Aquilin and I guess the Aquilin wand is probably popular. The Road Legend Skull goes well with I guess the Rude Goblin that I have on another character right now. Um, for the 3% set bonus resist, but that doesn't really coincide with rocking a blimp pet, for example, or another kind of pet you might want to rock on an ice, like a Lord of Winter kind of pet. Um, that's pretty much the wand. I guess they're pretty common from school to school. A theme, I think, generally speaking, they rock the Duelist's Fatal Razor for level 60. I'm the only person I've seen on several characters actually, and several people I guess you could say coach for PvP. Especially when you're starting out with little gear, I often recommend the Garnet Bear Claw, especially if you've done your crafting to get lore spells anyway. This gives high pips, better healing, okay damage, okay block, and okay HP. So I still think it's a very good complete theme. Especially on an ice, given that pips is one of the things that you'll likely struggle with because you're, for example, the waterworks gear and the Zafarian crafted gear do not give pips. The other thing you'll lack is accuracy, which is I think what a good thing to focus the triangle jewels on an ice legend character. For the amulet, I guess you can either go with HP and go more of an aggro style of ice, kind of a tank and just dish out hits, no heal, or I think life mastery is very common. For the ring, I feel like I would personally go for a damage option, although Stellar Signet, I'm sure, is still well, both viable and highly used because of life mastery, because of stally ice tactics, especially since the Shambos came out. Onto the pet. I think you want pretty good, generally speaking, I think ward pets are, although they're present, I think at, like, for example, higher ranks, usually more an offensive pet because ice does struggle to deal damage, so a pet that's something along these lines. You can ward to death if you want because death is overly prevalent. Obviously, it's very, very, very strong and legendary. Yeah, I guess if you want, I guess technically you could possibly rock the Furl mount with the Furl pet as well. But like I said, let's say assuming the blimp, so you probably want to rock a mount like the Clockwork Courser. Deck, you're likely going to want the House of Scales Tier 1 Triangle deck. Maybe put some accuracy or some pips depending on what stats you're lacking. Obviously, it would be on a legendary character though. Alright, so I think that pretty much covers it for, yeah, pretty much covered everything for ice. And now I think fire is much more straightforward in my opinion. Um, I've had a couple, friends of mine and people I met in the arena that basically have been complaining about the fire school at Legendary, saying it's rather weak, hard to win. And basically the problem with fire, I think, is, although they're pretty strong offensively, and even their defensive stats are not bad, they're kind of lacking stats overall. I guess especially it comes down to HP. And are you able to actually finish off your opponent effectively with combos before they knock you out? So I think what I said in the previous video is basically I think the best way to run fire is just Infal, Salamander, Brimstone. And that's basically the main combo I think you should rely on. I think the matches with a fire generally should be pretty quick, and you basically just try to crush your opponent with damage is all you're really doing. So I guess yeah. Aside from that, I guess use Fire Elf, especially to get rid of shields, and at low pips maybe as like an extra finisher to get through shields to make your Mander do more damage. Like I've said in the past, and like these are an opinion voiced by I guess you could say fire wizards with more experience. You don't always have time to blade on a fire. Like you might think, okay, I have get a blade up because it's in my hand, but you might literally not have time. Those small decisions might actually lose you the game because I feel like that's literally how tough it is on fire because it's very difficult for fire to heal unless you rock a life mastery, but which is weird because I feel like fire's main goal is really to dish out damage. So if you spend time healing, yeah, I have a match against Caleb Fire on this channel, the second match, where I guess you could say maybe because of his hand he tried to play defensive or he's using on his pips on non-offensive spells, and that match ended poorly for him and ended quickly because of it, because the lack of offensive momentum on his part. So yeah, I think that's pretty much how Fire should be played at Legendary, to be fully honest. Yeah, I guess Heffy is still good, but I mean, it just got nerfed, and obviously it's more rare for characters to be fully sweated out at Legend than it is at Max. I could be forgetting something. A lot of people over the years, especially since the Ifrit nerf, could say generally that Ifrit actually doesn't actually do enough damage for an 8-pip direct hit spell. Like it, sometimes you can win with it, but often it comes just short for whatever reason. So yeah, I think offensively, pretty much, I think that's maybe I get Krampus I've seen used as well. It's been used against me. I guess especially Spellamented Krampus with the strong mantle gives a really good chance that your opponent fizzles. That's relying on RNG, kind of more similar to like almost like a, I don't know, a storm type of play. But yeah, for whatever reason, I feel like when you're actually relying on the numbers, you lose pretty consistently. Like I feel like, um, if your opponents know what they're doing or if they faced other fires before, I feel like generally speaking, fire has a hard time to like win consistently, and it's hard to have like way more wins than losses on a fire, in my opinion, if you don't boost whatsoever. In terms of the gear you want to run on a fire, I guess, I don't know, we could actually go check out my friend, shout him out, but I think it's roughly the same. I'm not sure if any like House of Scales robe is used at all, but you know, you're probably gonna want Waterworks hat, possibly Waterworks robe, and then the boots. I would say personally the Professor's Horde, which might be called Falmea's. Let me just go see over here. Yeah, it's a funny stitch. Yeah, sorry, yeah. So the Dahlia shoes. And then he's rocking the Frill Pet, I guess, for the one extra damage. But I mean, obviously, like I said in a previous video, it's only 1% damage with the Clockwork Courser. If you rock the mount, but I guess it is good for fire. I think because you get actually extra damage, right? You get like 3% extra damage actually with the adjustment. Yeah, so probably if you have it, rock the Frill. I guess is really good on a fire. Um, I think you want as much offense as possible. I'm not sure how good Defy is on a fire. I may or may not go without it actually, just because you want that pure offense. Even though you might still lose, like I think it's just objectively difficult to play fire against people who know what they're doing. So what he has is a wand. Okay, he actually has Staff of Flashing Blades, which is interesting for the pips and accuracy that are. I guess fire just has low accuracy in general because of its base accuracy from its spells. And then let me just double check the time. Okay, 12 minutes. And then yeah, I guess pip percentage, because also your Waterworks gear, for example, doesn't give pips, so you can get increased pips with that. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think fire is really kind of a kamikaze school, similar to how David Lotus ended up playing his fire, a few months back. And then yeah, okay, Duelist Fatal Razor makes sense. Extra pips or extra accuracy depending on what you need. I would probably actually just like try to infoul and go more for pips so that you have a higher likelihood of winning, similar to how I go on my balance a little bit. Yeah, it makes sense if you're not rocking a hybrid strategy, then you just want an HP amulet because your HP isn't going to be amazing. Like I have roughly 500 more HP than him, right? And actually similar stats overall, if not kind of like low-key better stats. I remember when David Lotus broke down the stats. He made a comparison of fire versus death, but basically showing how the only stat that fire has like an advantage of over other schools at legendary is critical, by a slight margin. And really, obviously, if any of you guys know how the current crit and block mechanics work, like it objectively doesn't matter very much. Like having a couple more crit, and if anything, block is better than ever in my opinion. Which I could get into in another video, but it basically goes down to percentages, where it's more because of the chance of critting only being like in the 30%. I feel like it's better to minimize how much damage you take from crits rather than relying on crits offensively. Yeah, I don't think I'll get into it right now to not like overly extend the video, but I'm pretty sure like that my math is sound on that kind of rationale. Duelist Daredevil Ring, yeah, because you just want to deal damage or a fire, and then obviously House of Scales, tier 1 deck triangle. Yeah, so I think, yeah, that pretty much covered the gear, pretty much covered, like, deck, you might actually not have a complete deck. I'm not sure how you I don't think Fire Dragon is used. I don't know if you have time to get that off. It might be useful if they minion, but then again, I think like a Fire Elf will deal a crap ton of damage, especially if you cringe to get rid of a minion. And you'll be carrying 4-pip spells like Krampus or Brimstone Revenant. So I think that pretty much covers Ice and Fire, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you have any questions. If you want to discuss anything. Obviously, it's just my opinion, and I'm not necessarily super experienced in this meta. I think Ice is toxic, and I think Fire is difficult to win with. But anyway, guys, have an amazing day. Sorry for the poor lighting. It's like later in the day, and I don't have any other lights on. It's just that outside it's almost dusk. But yeah, have a great day. Hope you guys enjoyed, and take care, guys.